Okay, so we are back in our meeting. The next one who will present is Anna Brook from Israel. I want to mention that we had student from Anna Brook Institution in Timisoara, and we try to organize a guideline for terms that we are used in UAS. It wasn't an easy task, but Anna, she will give us some information about the stage of the guidelines. Please, Anna.
Thank you. I'll share the screen just a second. Oh, yeah. No, come on. As always. Okay. So thank you, Sorin. I would like to present some outcomes of the STSM in place with Sorin's group. And what I wanted to stress, actually, I will go through the first draft of that. Just a second, sorry. We have extra audience here. Sorry, but all of us at home. This is my daughter, Ariel. She's going to do some yoga. That's a new generation children. Okay, so what we try to do, my student Yakov, he went through a very large literature review, actually. He started with some disciplines, but then he crossed between disciplines, and he tried to get some basic terminology used nowadays to describe missions, data collection, data preparation, and come up with some glossary. So I would like to raise that here. And if we have a green light, we will continue with the same strategy of description. So
Sorin,
there is a list.
Your microphone, please.
It's also the yoga child still here. So we have. Thank you. Sorry. I'm also doing a lot of yoga to zen myself. So we have a list of terms. Basic ones, sometimes they are inside each other. For instance, like orthographic image, orthophoto, orthomosaic. What he figured out through his STSM, and we are continue this work, actually, and not surprisingly, most of our terminology comes from the program that we are using, and normally for data processing. So many papers, many authors refer to terms based on the software that they are using. It's absolutely normal, I think, because we are producing some products, we are analyzing some stuff, and the terms that are internally implemented in the program or by tutorial or guidance of these softwares, we are immediately introduce them, like orthomosaic. Orthomosaic is specifically from Agisoft because it's based on stitching. So if you prepare or you produce a photogrammetric, fully photogrammetric product, it will be orthophoto. If you're producing some partially photogrammetric program based on image stitching, it will be probably orthomosaic. So this is like this dilemma that we have, and papers that are full of plenty of terms. So the list is very, very big, but normally it's affected by at least 3 big providers or programs: Agisoft, Pix4D, and or other also DJI program, and the last but not least, it's Bentley. So all of them really affect the publications, and we are not guided, but we are also forced, it's a big word, but at least we are following the terminology from these programs. And then the other part of that, data collection, it's also followed by the app that we are using to fly our drone. So if, for instance, it's a footprint, I will use footprint. If it's a resolution, I will use resolution. Upon on the program that I choose, we are following the terms. Now here, there are, of course, several very similar terms. Sometimes they refer to a bit different tasks. Sometimes they are in line, but we have still several terms to describe stuff. The example of how we want to treat our glossary is here. For instance, ground sampling distance. Okay, so we are here, Yaakov gave an example, and we are actually now have a bunch of them, but what we decided to do, and we need your agreement on that, we decided to give a basic definition. The basic definition actually gives the really theoretical background for this term. As a ground sampling distance, it means that, and there is a definition. If there is an equation, we give the equation. If there is none, of course, it will be only a description. And then references. So references should be an updated list of papers, but fundamental papers who really describe the term, not only use that term, of course. And we gave also citation in Google for terms in order to show deviation. For instance, ground sampling distance used by 3,650 papers or results in Scholar. Ground projected sample interval, it's also valid, but it used only by 7 recent papers. It's also, he identified, he looked only for the last, I think 5 or something like that years, not going through history of Google and publications. And the ground projected instantaneous field of view used by 33 authors. In fact, 3 of them refer to the same stuff, but here it's the standard, the suggested standard terminology. This is the third part of our explanation, or our treatment or the glossary. So it's given in 3 parts: definition, then as we said, references, and the third, what we suggest. And the suggestion is with some again a solid explanation of why to choose one term and not follow different terms, and why actually other terms that are less informative or less usable. This is how we see the structure for each term. So now the question to you, first, do you agree to have it? Do you have other suggestion? And also, if you might go through the list and also give us some suggestion to include further on in this list. So the investigation will be according to these terms from the list. So the plan is to give for each term in the current list and maybe updated list, the same structure of 3 phases or 3 steps of definition, references, and suggested standard term. Then this kind of list or glossary can go as an appendix to a chapter that Eyal is writing, or the book, sorry, and or it can be also some kind of a review paper. It's up to the group to decide. Okay, this is all from my side. Comments, please.
Thank you very much, Anna. Thank you very much. I know that it wasn't an easy task. At the beginning, we thought it's okay, but then when we started to look how many terms are used in this domain, we were like, where we have to start, where we have to start. So I think your proposal to start like in that terms, for me, it's worked fine, and I'm glad that we get to this point. If there are any questions, suggestions, comments, please.
Critical stuff.
Yes.
Unpleasant comments.
Hi, it's Mike here from Lancaster. I really like this idea of having a collection of terms together, particularly when, yes, all the different software use different terms and they can have different implications. So having somewhere where the fundamentals are explained are critical. I've just found there's in the photogrammetry area, there is a very good resource which I'll put in the chat. And I think it would be good to make sure that is in there somewhere. It won't cover all of them, of course, but it might be a useful resource for some of them. Thanks very much. Great.
Yeah, I'm happy. I guide him also. He took 2 books that I have in my office on photogrammetry, like this big. And I told him go and start with the investigation, because it's really investigation. We lost some terms somewhere in our past as we become more dependent on programs. Really, truthfully, I can say from my side, I'm really pissed by that, because we shouldn't really follow terms comes from the programs. I mean, we can use them, we can understand ourselves what they refer to, but none of us should go and do that. The biggest and the, I think, worst example in at least in the geographic world is the mistake that ArcGIS put it on the coordinate system, because they mixed and matched between datum, projection, and coordinate system. They call them all like coordinate system. Doesn't matter what kind of a projection you want to use, they refer to it as like a coordinate system. And even now, when I have students who are more familiar with cartography or used ArcGIS, the first question on my courses is like, but it's all coordinate system, why you separate the terms? And no, it's not. It's not. These are basic 3 stuff that should be separated. And I think programs can do that, because they are really pushing approaches according to buttons that we choose. And I think it's a really good time and period to stop that and restart with the rest of the world, but also restart our papers. So we will follow very fundamental terms, and the reference in the program will be to just the button that we pushed when we choose whatever step that we did performed by the program. So this is basically what we are trying to do. It's very hard, so I would like to have your help as much as possible, even like only a review or criticism or whatever you want to put there. But I think it should be polished. It should be really, really acceptable to all of us, because we can really change the modern publications. If we will introduce it well, I think others will follow.
One other quick suggestion, which I've also involved in a similar thing for terminology about volcanoes, which is very global. So, and that effort has a section for each term, which is explaining the terms and potential translations and pitfalls when using them in different languages. So it might be that there are false friends in different languages. So maybe there's some language things that you can also consider to add in here if you want to deviate from just English.
Okay. Oh, okay. It's a good idea. I'll try to think how to do that. But yes.
I want to also relate to this topic about glossary. Based on my experience when I made a review of papers, when we read these youth guidelines, I find that not just the issue of the terms, but the type of description methodology in which word they describe it is goes far from one to another. For example, they can explain their overlap by presentation of overlapping, or just saying the time of picture capture. So you have to mathematically calculate calculate from the time to overlap. So it means when we go into the same vocabulary, we use not just the same vocabulary, but also to use the same workflow. It helps us to accumulate all our knowledge and share them to make the uniform type of study description that help us there to use this knowledge in our future projects.
Okay, thank you, Maria. Thank you, Mike, for your comments.
Just a quick comment.
Yes, Salvatore,
Yeah.
please.
Okay, no, first of all, thank you for this presentation, and I'm pleased to see that the work carried out by this group is proceeding well. It is clearly a challenge. It is a challenge that we have identified as action, but it's also a challenge for many other cost action. This is something we discussed among cost chair in Brussels. And what is the reason for this? Because most of our international projects nowadays involve a multitude of scientists from different backgrounds. And this, in many cases, imply difficulties in the use of proper terminologies, because each field is using sometime in different ways terms, and this limits a lot the capability to interact and to understand each other. So this work is really critical to enhance our capability to interact and to build a common ground in this field. From my point of view, of course, a work like this can be can have a specific its own space in the book we are proposing to Springer. But we can try also other form of promotion for a work like this. It is a group effort because it cannot be done just by one person. It requires the involvement of many specialists. And for this, we probably should try to find a strategy. Yep. Maybe these days can represent an option to share the document among us and start sorting out the terms, try to identify, to build a consensus around specific words. We can even plan specific meetings or working groups dedicated and devoted to this specific task. This is one thing that we can certainly do. And from my perspective, the fact that we have a bit more of time, because just for myself, avoiding all the traveling that I was making, I have probably doubling the time that I can dedicate to the research and to my kids also. So let's use this as an opportunity. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Okay.
Absolutely, it's a great idea. If we, I'll put that for all of us with Sorin. I'll ask him to really publish it among us. Not only work group 1, I think that all others can contribute. Maybe they will be less enthusiastic on the first stage, but I think it will come. An advertisement, it's really important because this work is, I'm telling the truth, it's very complicated. It's investigation. To put the suggestion, the worst part is suggestion, because we have to really cross other terms, say, okay, this is not garbage, because we will not say that, but we'll say, okay, it's less representative, it's more intuitive, it's less la la li, la la la, somehow to put it nicely, and convince others that the term that we choose as a group is really the most appropriate term. And it's not bullying, it's just to say, okay, we're experts, and I agree with Salvatore absolutely, that the promotion should be this way. We will create a joint language, we will create more tight networking, we will create some interaction and better understanding of each other. For Maria's comment, we deal with that, look at that front and side overlap in percentage, and then you go down and you're saying, okay, front overlap ratio, side overlap ratio, like everybody with something, sometimes it's time, sometimes it's proportion, sometimes it's just frames and whatever. And it's really hard even to really understand the quality of their product, because these overlaps, they're clearly linked to quality, and you're clueless if you do not understand the final quality or how they assess the quality. So if you agree, I'm more than happy. Unfortunately, I cannot say that my research time doubled because I have this small thing running all over the place, sometimes on walls, and apparently Spider-Mans, they do exist, and but I will do my best because nights still are very common.
Anyway, Anna, this is an excellent start to continue. So I think you, Yakov, you did a great job. He was a very good guy here in Timișoara. So he, so I think it's an excellent start. And from now, yeah, we will share to our networks, and we'll talk with Salvatore and with you how we will do that thing. But definitely we'll start to look more specific to this document. If there are any questions, suggestions, good stuff, bad stuff that you want to mention. Okay, so thank you again. I will stop the recording. Let me see.